Welcome to another G4 Guitar Teacher Hangout. My name is David Hart. What we're going to do today is our standard format here. Ask the guys some questions and then we'll discuss those topics and see if we cannot improve our schools, our teaching, our businesses just a little bit better, a little bit more each time. So I'll start with you, Adam. Have you got a question or a topic or even something that you want to share? This is not all about necessarily telling you something you want to know. If you feel that you've got something you want to share and talk about, then that's great as well. Anything that's been an experience and success for you. Anything?
Yeah, I have had my first student pass the method completely in Bowie.
Fantastic.
Which is awesome.
First graduation.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, so we'll get into that. We'll talk about that particular student, how long they were with you, any of the challenges, and what makes that student. Because I think, and I saw this recently, that I'm not sure where, maybe it was in our Facebook group too, but it was about how that focusing on someone's successes rather than their failures, or focusing on your own successful situations rather than your failures, can lead to more success. It's actually a better strategy than focusing on your failures too much. We talk a lot about failure and how you've got to get over failure and get back up on your feet. But talking about success, and maybe it will kind of look at that topic in this light, so that way we can sort of use a real example here. So Alex, what would you like to raise today? What topic, question?
Let me see. It's a little bit of a nebulous sort of thing. As you know, I've taken over the Strathfield location recently, and it's sort of, I don't know, I'm struggling a little bit with it, just to get it sort of, basically I'm struggling to find a way to sort of have it almost self-managed, because it's such a long way away from where I live that, like, I literally have to go out there and stay there 3 nights a week, which is fine, I guess, but, like, I just really want to work on getting that self-sustaining as quickly as possible, so that I can, live my life, essentially.
You want to get it on remote. Okay, so that's something you'll discuss. Just to bring everybody else into the picture, in, what was it, a month or 2 months ago now?
Yeah, I think about a month and a half or so.
Okay, cool. So Alex took over another school, which he purchased from another G4 member, and so now he's got 2 locations. But with this second location, it's a good hour drive away from where he is, and so talking 2 hours travel when you go there and back. So Alex is looking at setting it up so he doesn't have to be there all the time, and so we'll talk about that, how to do that, because that's something that if you want to grow, you've got to be able to do. If you have to be there, if it requires you to be there all the time, it's going to be a challenge. You're not going to grow if you have to be there. I don't think, and if you think of any of the big businesses, chains, etc., if they have to be there and present, they're not going to grow. So we'll talk about that a bit more. So Fernando, welcome to our hangout. What would you like to talk about today? Basically, you can pose a question. I know this new format, this is probably the first time you've been to this new format, but basically what we do is just each teacher nominates a topic or a question or a subject that they want to talk about. So what would you like to talk about?
Right, now you put me on the spot. Hello, everyone. First of all, can you all hear me? Yeah, cool.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Hello. I guess probably one of the questions would be, it's been a year for me, so I have a fair idea on how to sort of turbocharge my school and get more students and get more inquiries, just keep growing. So I guess that would be my questions. What would be like the best strategies going forward to just make that leap and start growing?
Where you are now. What have you got now? Around 30 students, somewhere around that mark?
30, exactly 30. Yeah.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So just again to put you guys in the picture, Fernando started a year ago. He has been working as well in his job, so he started off when he first started with G4. He's pretty well working full time, but then cut back some of his hours, and so he's gradually been sort of weaning off the job, so to speak, and he's now, so he hasn't been able to dedicate full time to his business, but he still managed to get to 30 students in the last 12 months from 0. And so it's really about how do we turbocharge it and get to the 100, which is the goal, obviously. All right, so we'll talk about that. Okay, so just let me put these down so I don't forget. And Monty, I'm going to ask you in 1 second. Okay, 100 students. Okay, so Monty, across to you, what would you like to talk about?
I'm looking at the website, and can I add like pictures of my, pictures or video and stuff? And okay.
Yep.
Just like before. You said something along the lines of you don't want to put too much on there to clutter it up?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad you raised that. We'll talk about the website and what kind of shoulds and shouldn'ts about your website. So websites.
Okay.
Can do's and can't and shouldn't do's sort of thing. So that way, yeah, because obviously we want to take the wisdom and the the knowledge that I picked up along all through all these marketing seminars that I spend a lot of money going to and learning from, and pass them down to you guys, so that we end up with websites that are doing that are really the best they can be. So I'll get into that. Fantastic. That's really good. It's going to be a good session. Okay, so cool. Joachim, what would you like to talk about today? I had in my mind that you really wanted to talk about student confidence, because you've had this kind of ongoing problem of losing more students than you would like. And yes. I can tell you, the funny thing was, you may have noticed yesterday that I commented on your post. Emma commented as well, but she hadn't read my comment, and she said exactly the same thing that I did. And that's because you get to this point in your teaching. It may take 10 years, but you get to a point where you realize that the underlying problem is confidence within your students. That's what's missing, and that confidence is usually about you as the teacher. The best presenters that I've known, my best teachers, the best marketing presenters, all these guys, they're confident. That's the one thing that they all share. And it doesn't mean that it's, will fix all your problems, and it doesn't mean that it applies to every single student, but it is often the elephant in the room that needs to be tackled. So perhaps we'll talk about that. Is that something that you're happy to talk about, Joachim?
That's right, yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. So we've got a full day here. And Jonathan, what would you like to talk about today?
I was just happy to listen today, so yeah, all good. Yeah, I'm sure most of the answers will be answered by everyone else, so I'll see what's in and then go from there.
Excellent. Okay, good, because we've got quite a lot today. So if you have a listen, and then if anything comes to you, just sort of write it down. If we have time, we can get to it at the end, or you can raise it next time. All right. So let's jump in. We've got a full house. So I'll start off with Adam's comment about that he's had a student his first student who's completely gone all through the levels. Now, how old is this student, Adam?
So a teenager, maybe 14, 15.
Okay, excellent. And how long has he been with you? Can you hear me? Oops.
I can now. Yeah, he went out for a second.
Okay. How long has he been with you? When did he start?
He kind of crushed it. He was maybe like 3 to 6 months.
Fantastic. Excellent. And had he had previous experience on guitar?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Excellent. And so it sounds like, what can you tell me about him? Is there something, is he enthusiastic about his practice? Did he follow the method? What were the things that you think that made him successful?
I think he just had a lot of experience beforehand. He's homeschooled. I noticed a lot of homeschool kids are awesome. They really work hard. It's funny. I think he didn't trust me a little bit at first, and then he came around and started to trust me, and then when he started to trust me, he really started to, be successful.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, well, it's interesting like that, because you really have to get the trust and the confidence from your students for them to follow the program. And one of the things that I learned through teaching is that when I find a teacher, a coach, or a mentor, I just completely go with them. I don't try and fight it. I don't sort of, if I've got questions, I'll ask them, or if I'm not sure about something. But what I'll do is I'll do the program for a period, and then I'll decide. I'll do it, especially when I go for these, marketing seminars where they're like a week long. I'm not going to go there and be, constantly questioning everything that they say. What I do is I try out what they say. And if we look at Thrive, for example, Thrive is something that's the result of probably a few different guys, but one guy in particular who spent a lot of time researching it all. And so I started testing it, and already my results have gone through the roof for what I've tested so far. Very impressed with it all. Obviously it looks really good, it feels really good, but the idea is that if I'm a skeptic and I'm constantly holding back, then I'm not going to get the full benefit of what he's trying to show me. I'm better to do it for a couple of months, try it out, and then if it's not what I thought it was and it's not working, or I've got questions, I can ask those questions, but I'm not going to be the skeptic and ruin any chances of finding out why if it's going to work. So yeah, that's great. On that topic, which is really kind of what I wanted to do there, was about what we mentioned before, about the fact that success is more important than studying our success, our previous success, our past successes is more important than studying our past failures. And the same applies when you're working with students, is to talk more about their past successes than going on about their failures. So, and even though it can almost seem logical, it's one of those things you've got to stay aware of. We often dwell on our failures. We think, how bad was it? Because failures are painful, and in many cases, failures are what teach us what to avoid. If you sort of think about, if you cut yourself on a knife, okay, I need to not touch a hot stove or something like that. I need to stay away. You learn these things as kids. These are painful lessons that teach you what not to do. But at the same time, if you're looking for success, you've got to look at, okay, what did I do before that worked? Why did this marketing campaign work and this marketing campaign didn't work? What am I doing differently? And I can see this sometimes in you guys, where you'll have the first year will be really good, and then the second year things don't go so well, and then you're kind of looking outside yourself for answers, but really the answer is in, well, what did I do last year? Why did it work last year? What am I doing this year that's different? And often you'll find clues there to what you're not doing this year compared to what you did last year. So keep that in mind, and always look for those past successes. But in terms of your students, keep mentioning to them, and this will kind of relate to what we're going to talk about with Joachim about building confidence. The best way to build someone's confidence, the fastest way, is to remind them of past successes. Keep reminding them, but you did this before, you did that. And that really helps to build people, because then they can see. I do it to myself, almost on a weekly basis, where I'll sit down and go, okay, look at what I did before, look at what I've achieved. And okay, so why can't why am I having these doubts today, this week? What's going on here? It's just me, just thinking too much, being too much in the short term. Let's look back at, all the achievements in the past or past successes, and that really will lift your confidence and change the way you think about things. Are there any other clues, Adam, that you want to share about this particular student? Is there anything that you did that you would recommend for other teachers to do?
No, I mean, I think he just had previous. Well, he had previous experience with like other teachers, and that's why he didn't trust me at first, because he was used to the other teachers and not the method. And then, I guess building the trust with him was really important. I had to get him to overcome that problem, and then once he started to trust me, then we could start to work. And from his strong feel in the past, and how good the G format, he just crushed it. So.
Fantastic, excellent. So, can you give maybe just one tip on how you built trust? Was there something that you did or said or didn't do or didn't say?
Shut up. No, I'm just kidding. Say that. Sorry. No, I was just patient with him, and I was patient, and I didn't really try to, I didn't really try to disagree with him. I just tried to kind of just get off the topic. So like if he was saying something that he didn't, I just kind of just directed away from what the problem was, and then just kind of brought him to task basically, and just kind of ignored it, and then he just kept doing what I said over time. And then he just realized over time, just for me, just moving this subject, if that makes sense.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. I understand what you're saying. You kept getting him back on task and keeping him on task, and I think that's brilliant. And it's one of those things that makes a good teacher is not getting distracted or not, things like a student complaining about their last teacher or complaining about something about why this is not working or that's not working, and getting them back on task. Mia, and then this happens with young kids, as you guys would know, but Mia being 6, I have a very strict rule with her, is that we don't discuss things that aren't to do with guitar during guitar time. But inevitably she'll say, well, at school today, blah, 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 and I said, is that to do with guitar, sweetie? And she'll, well, yeah, and then she'll sort of lead it back into being something about guitar when it was actually nothing about guitar. She's very clever. But I know that she will go off on tangents, and it's to do with the fact that the next exercise that we're about to do, she's a little bit nervous or it feels a little bit hard. Not nervous, but just it's an effort. It's going to take concentration for her to do, so she will divert the conversation. And that's what students do, is that's, again, one of those confidence things, which will be the theme for the day, by the way. So getting in on letting her know that we're not, that's not going to work with me, and that I'm going to keep bringing her back. And I think what you did there, Adam, was great, because you did it gently. You weren't sort of saying stop. You were just saying, okay, cool. That's you're being agreeable. I'm judging by what you're saying, and then moving him back onto task. Yeah, very good. Okay, so I'll move on to Alex. Alex now has 2 locations, and he wants to know how he can manage the second location, especially if not both locations, from remote, because that should really be the goal, Alex, is to be able to do both of your locations from your little hotel in Thailand while you're sitting on the beach. So this is the goal, really, for, everybody has different ideas about what they want in business, but the goal really for most entrepreneurs is to have freedom to be able to do what they want, just to choose. If you want to be in your school and you want to be there doing the teaching, that's great, as long as that's what you're choosing to do. As long as you're not chained to the business and, oh God, I've got to go and teach again today, I've got to work today. That should never be the case. It should always be, I'm doing what I want to do, where I want to do it. So really what it comes down to is deciding what are the things that you need to go there for. Why are you actually going to the location? And each time that you go to the location, you've got to start writing down, these are the things that I actually need to be here for. How can I do these without being here? It's a very simple question. And if you can work out, if you can write that list and then start working on the systems. So for example, Alex, can you give us something that you think that you need to go there for, that you can't do from remote?
Yeah, restocking the folders, I suppose, and making sure, well, just restocking all the materials. That would be one thing, I suppose.
Okay, cool. So you've got a teacher employed there, I'm guessing?
At Strathfield? No, I don't. Which I'm also working.
So you're doing the teaching, is that correct?
Yeah. 3 days a week.
All right, so you need to go there for the teaching primarily right now.
Yeah.
But you've got a teacher in your other location in Manly, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So really, what you're looking to do is get Strathfield, because obviously you can't put a teacher in there if you don't have enough students to make it profitable. If you put someone in there and you don't make any money, then it's not going anywhere. So the first thing that you need to think about is how you're going to get a teacher in there, and at what point that you're going to get that teacher in there. Because one of the things that makes us feel frustrated is when we don't know the plan. I often use this analogy of flying on a plane. When you are on a plane, if you were not told how long the flight would take, what to expect, etc., people in the plane would get very restless very quickly, and that's why flights, especially international flights, have these signs telling you how long the flight's going to take and exactly where you are on the trip, and they have little things to keep you busy through the movies and meals and all sorts of things. So the idea is to give you a very clear picture of where you're going and to give you the map, the road map. And that's the same as what we're doing for students. That's why the G4 method works so well, is because it's a roadmap. It's showing them where we're taking them, and by putting things in like the completion dates and things like that, we give students an idea of how long things are going to take. So what you're really aiming for is to create a plan, and this should always be what you're doing. You should always create a plan for what you want and where you're going. So let's have a look quickly at Strathfield. How many students do you think you would need before you can employ a teacher to take over and still make it viable?
To teach all the shifts, or
to cover everything, so you don't have to go for any of the shifts.
Let me see. Well, I mean, it would depend on how many shifts I have, but assuming it was like maybe 2 shifts, I would need. I actually just worked this out. I think it would be about $2,000 altogether, so that would need to be, in theory, about 20 students.
Okay, cool. So $2,000 a month, right? So you need about 20 students. Okay, so that's not a big number, and you can now break it down into marketing. You can go, well, how many flyers is that equivalent to? This many. So how many hours am I going to need to do those flyers? And do I want to do it myself, or do I want to borrow the money and pay someone to go with me, or pay 2 people, or 4 people, or 10 people, whatever you want to get the job done as quickly as you can. Everything can be done in this way, where you can get things done very quickly, and that it's not going to take you a long time to get to that point. So to get to 20 students, how many students are there now?
Oh, there's more than 20. There's like 33 there now. But
the shifts. You've got too many shifts. Is that they're too spread out?
Yeah, they're spread out over 3 shifts, and it's just like a.
Okay, all right. So if you're going to have 3 shifts, and that's fine, you can have 3 shifts, but you really need, if you're talking $2,000 a month or 20 students, you really need 30 students to make it viable over 3 shifts. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. Which I have right now, but yeah.
Okay, so you got the students. All right. So you've got the numbers. So what you need is a trainee teacher. If you've got the numbers already, then it means that you've got the income coming in, so you're ready to go. So what's stopping you from getting the trainee teacher?
Well, look, there's a cash flow thing. I'm not sure why, but I'm just trying to make everything. We've talked about this before. Anyway, so there's that. I am looking at hiring a trainee teacher. I have actually put out ads. I mean, hopefully you're getting some little ads coming through your way. And I put some ads on Facebook, on AIM, the AIM little secret group site. And I had a few people contact me via that.
Yep.
Yeah. So I have been working towards it.
Okay, no worries. And there's plenty, there'll be plenty of applicants out there. So the really what you need to do, I think what's sort of holding you back is probably the cash flow. I sense that that's a kind of a bit of an issue for you. So you really need to get on top of that. That needs to be your priority, even if it means cancelling everything for the next week or 2 and just focusing on getting your numbers together. How much money have you got coming in a month for sure, and how many expenses do you have? You need to get all that clear. So what I'm going to do is set you a task, and is to send that to me within a week. I want to see how much money you got coming in and how much money you got going out, and then I'll give you some advice, because you don't want to hire someone if you don't know your financial situation. Otherwise, you're just going to dig a big hole for yourself. So.
And would that be from both schools, like the whole gamut? Or?
The whole thing, because it's all you. If one school is making money and the other school is not, that's still okay, as long as the school is not making money, has the potential to make money, and that's what it comes down to. So your profitable school can be lifting your other school or supporting your other school, as long as the potential is there, as long as it's just not a burden on your business, and it shouldn't be, because it's still you. It's all the same. Unless the school is in a very bad place, and I know it's in a good place, in a good area, so it should do fine. All right, so if you can do that for me, that'd be great.
Sure.
All right, so okay, so we'll move on to Fernando, and we'll talk about getting him from his 30, which he's on now, and that's Fernando, congratulations for that, because I know we spoke about this and we spoke about getting you to 30 students, and it seems like a bit of a dream at the time, but here you are. You've made it. You hit the number. So
That's it.
Yeah, really good, really good. And I know that I don't know, you're very organised about the way you do things. You're very clear. I find it very easy to communicate with you on what you're trying to achieve. You keep things simple for me, which is great. And I think in business it's really important to keep things simple and not to be overcomplicating it. And that's what we do, is we often put all these layers on and all these reasons and excuses and things that we think are causing our business not to work. It's really important to bring it back to simplicity. So right now you're at 30 students. Let's just set the next target at 40 so that you keep stepping up. The big target is 100, of course, but let's just look at that 40 horizon. What do you think it's going to take to get you to 40 students?
I guess marketing would be a big one.
Yep. How long did it take you to get from 20 to 30?
From 20 to 30,
yeah,
took me about 2 months.
2 months, good, excellent. All right, so we can look forward to it getting. See what happens just to keep in mind is that as you grow, if your dropout rate is high, then it gets harder as you go up, because you've got more students dropping out the other end. And that's something that often gets underestimated. And that's where some of you will get stuck at certain points, because you're losing students too quickly. You're not hanging on to those students for years. And those of you that are growing steadily, it's better to grow steady. And if you read the book that we did the review on, Great by Choice, it gives that very example. If the best businesses were the ones that generally grew by about the same amount steady every year. They didn't have these big years and then small years like this. This is often the recipe of a business that fails. The best businesses have this steady growth. Businesses like Southwest, they grew by 20% every year. That was their target, just to grow by 20% a year. But over compounding that 20% over 30 years is huge. It's massive. So that's what you're looking for, just to keep growing steadily, steadily, steadily. And that's where if you say it takes 2 months to get another 10 students, then let's just look at that. Let's look at really 3 months to get to 40, and that's a nice growth. And then keep doing that. You can grow faster if you want, but the real message here is not about fast growth. It's about not growing fast and compromising your business structures. In other words, the systems that keep your business together. If you sort of grow too quickly and you don't put those systems in place, what you end up with is a lot of problems. So that's what each step of the way. That's where I've really slowed right down, because I actually was starting to grow too quickly. I went from 20 G4 members to 50 in a fairly short period of time, and I was like, whoa, this is, and that's why I'm creating the platform that I am now, because I knew that the questions and emails and so forth coming from you guys were starting to get too intense, where I knew that I needed more systems in place to be able to do it before I could grow anymore. And that's really important, because what happens is if I kept going on that trajectory where I get to 100 members, you guys are going to get neglected. It's just the way it is. I'm not going to have time to give you guys what you need. So I realized that I had to slow the pace right down and then develop more systems. So you need me less. That's the idea, is to create the systems that will do a lot of the work for you, will make your businesses automate as well. And that's what you're trying to do. And that's the same with the G4 method. The G4 method really gives your students a lot of what they need without you having to write lots of notes. And I see these guys advertise their guitar websites and they teaching websites, and they talk about things like personalized lesson, one-on-one with me. I'll write you up a whole lesson plan just for you. And I'm thinking, wow, you get to 50 students, you're doing that for every student every week. That's a lot of work, and it's not necessarily better. In fact, in most cases, it's worse, because it's easier to develop your method for everybody than it is to be developing these individual lessons for everyone every single week. It's a lot of time, and so you just don't have the energy after a while. You don't have the energy or the interest or the passion for it. So your quality drops. Whereas if you have a system and a method, the method retains its quality but can be improved on and developed and made better and better and better. And that's really what a system is all about. So, yeah, Fernando, does that sound fair to get to 40 in, say, 3 months?
Yeah, that sounds fair. At the moment, I'm having about one and a bit dropouts per month. So that's sort of the average. I don't know if that's high, if that's all right, if I should work on that too. Or...
No, it sounds fine. It's probably average. For some guys, they will lose, 3. If you've got 30 students, let's say, some guys will lose, 3 students in a month, and other guys won't lose any in that month. But some guys lose 1 a month. It just depends. But it's really over the year that you're looking at. You look at the 12 months, and you look at how many you signed up, how many of them fell out the other end. It's not as simple as it seems, but the main thing is that you're growing, so that you've got this growth, and that you're looking at whether the students that you have are progressing. And I come back to the quality of what you do. I don't actually care that much, and the same with my students, I don't care that much about the numbers, how many students you've got, even though you want to be aware of that and they stay clear about those targets. What you're working on is not necessarily getting those numbers up, but ensuring that your students are getting what they're there for. In other words, they're learning, progressing, and moving forward. So the quality of what you do is better all the time, and that way you'll keep students longer. Naturally, it'll just be a consequence of. It's the same with your guitar playing. It doesn't matter how many hours you practice; it's the quality of your practice, and are you making the most of that time? I would rather a student who's practicing half an hour a day efficiently, doing the right things, than someone who comes in and says, I practice 2 hours a day. We keep the practice logs because we want to measure certain things. This is one of those things that we measure, but it's not the really what we're looking at. What we're looking at is the quality of the practice. If a student tells me they're practicing an hour a day and I don't see much progress, then I'm going to question, okay, what are you doing in that hour? Because I don't see a lot of progress. That's really the only reason I want to know how much they practice. But it also, the practice log serves other purposes, such as it helps to see if the student is on board. Asking a student to fill out a practice log is a request of you, and it shows whether you have that trust and the students are going to follow you. If they're not willing to fill in a practice log, they're probably not willing to do much else that you ask them to do. It's a very easy indicator that will help you. So yeah. So with each student that drops out, treat them like treat them as if it's like a relationship breakup. Like, what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? Was it me? Was it you? What happened? And really break it down and have a look at what's gone wrong and whether you can repair that relationship or whether you need to think about that in future. So for future students, is there something different I need to do? It's not that you're pandering to people, and this is really important. We're not pandering to what they want just because they don't want to practice or they don't want to do this or they want to learn just these particular songs. We're not pandering to their needs. What we're trying to understand is what kind of communication that we need. In other words, how do we get across what we know that they need in a way that they're going to take on board? That's always the strategy. Okay. Yeah. You go, Bennett. All good? All right, excellent.
No, all good.
Fantastic. All right, so what I'll do now is I'll go on to talking about the website, the can-dos and can't-dos. That was Monty, I think, brought this topic up. So I
just saw that there's a...
Say again?
I just saw that there's a post September 19th about the websites, but I don't know if I watched it.
That's okay. That's okay. It's good to
Hopefully
get
you're not repeating everything.
Well, look, repeating is a good thing because some of you guys will read the post, some of you guys will watch the videos. The communication, if it's important, it gets repeated generally. So yeah, I don't have an issue at all. So with the websites, we have to keep in mind what its main function is. The function of those websites that I've got for you guys is purely for marketing. It's to get people from interested to signed up, and that's what it does. You don't want to turn your website, as you know, many people do, many guitar teachers, music teachers do, is they turn their websites into a kind of a everything. They have their students coming on there to do things. They sell their music. They talk about their dog. All these things that they use their website for, and it just gets totally confusing and doesn't have a very clear message. If you go to the big names, the smart operators such as Apple, for instance, and you look at their website, you will see often just one picture. You'll see the latest iPhone, and that's it. And the idea is that your website needs to be really stripped back from as much clutter as possible, and getting people to do the one thing that you want them to do. And the one thing that you want is for them to contact you, or to at least give you their contact details so that you can follow up. That's what the aim of the website is. So think about anything that you add. Is this going to affect that? Is it really for people coming in, looking, inquiring, or is this for my students or for something else? Now, if you want something for your students, you can create a separate page where only they have that link to that page. And that way it's not on the main page, and you can just create a page, which I did in the last video. So just go back and have a look at the last Hangout, and you'll see how to do that. And the idea is that you create a page, and then you might call it students. And it's not, you don't have a menu on there, so people who land on your website can't see it, but your students can see it. You can give them a link to there, and they can go straight to that page. On WordPress, you can even set up passwords if you want, so that they can only get to certain pages with a password if you want to do that. But it's not. I don't think it's that necessary. People who find it, that's okay. It's no big deal. They get to your website anyway if they find it on a search of some description. Okay, so what kind of things do we want? The websites at the moment, they look good. They're set up. They're really designed for the function they are, but they do look a bit generic. In other words, people will feel maybe these guys are just a bland chain of music schools, and there's no personality there. And sometimes they're looking to know a little bit more about who are the teachers, who's behind this, to see that it's real and that it is actually about their location. Because there are some websites that are really portals for business. Like if you think about Uber, for instance, the Uber driver is local, personal, all that, but the Uber website is such that it's a portal. It's where people go on and pay, and they pay commission to Uber. So what you want to do is inject a little bit of personality into your websites, and that can be that on that main page, if you could have a photo, for instance, of you, it should be a good quality photo of you with a guitar or teaching a student would be great, or even better, a video. And if you want to sample, have a look at Adam Wines in Bowie, check his out, and you'll see that he's got a very good quality video that he got done by a friend who is actually, in my book, a professional. It looks very, very professionally done. So that is something that if you just have that on your website, you can have it down a little bit lower. It's going to give it a bit more personality and make it a little bit more local.
Like the picture I emailed you?
Yeah, great, excellent. That's a great example. It's got you with your students, and
the Thumbtack 5-star certificate in my hand.
Thumbtack,
but you can't really see it. We need a close-up.
You need a close-up. Maybe
put another picture of that thing.
Yeah, have it somewhere else, like as a second picture. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So I'll have to work on some video.
Yeah, if you work on a video, look, you guys can just do a 2-minute video, 2-minute introduction of yourself, and say, hi, my name is David, and I teach guitar here using the G4 guitar method. This is why I like the G4 guitar method. My students are getting great results with my students. If you're interested in learning more, we want to do our 5-week intro, just click the button there, or just give me a ring, etc. Whatever you want to say, just a quick introduction.
Cool.
Say hello.
I like it.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Cool. Actually, one thing popped in my head, and another thing I'm sure you've repeated. What is a conversion?
Okay, cool. A conversion really can be many things, but it's just converting a person from one point to another. So in terms of your website, a conversion is someone who fills in the form. They go from being someone who's looking at your website to actually putting their details in, and that's considered through a Facebook marketing campaign as a conversion. So they've gone from someone looking at your website to someone who actually fills in the form. But there's also sales conversion, which is someone who converts from someone of interest or someone who's filled in your form to actually paying you money. And so it can be any number of things depending on what context we're using it in.
All right, thank you.
Converting people from non-guitarists to guitarists. That's our business.
That's right.
You will become a guitar.
Bring kids up right.
That's it. Bring them up right. Put a guitar in their hand. Keep them off the streets. When their hands are on a guitar, they can't get into trouble. That's what I used to tell parents. Keep their hands here, and they won't get into trouble. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's have a chat about confidence. Talking about this is for Joachim. Now, Joachim, in your situation, are you talking about your students that you teach? Are you talking about the students generally in your school? Have you looked to see where the students are dropping out from? Is it one particular teacher? Is it all the teachers? What's the story? Oh, we've got no audio from you, Joachim. Looks like we've got no sound.
Looks like he's on the treadmill.
Yes. He's running the treadmill.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
There you are. Hello.
Yeah, I was just saying it's from one particular teacher.
Okay. All right. So if it's coming from one particular teacher, then the problem is probably connected to that teacher's confidence. There's something that teacher needs to work on, and sometimes that can be hard because I had a teacher that I had when I had my schools, and he had the highest dropout rate, and he would literally lose. To give you an idea, and of course I'm not using any names, but when we handed over the school to him, that particular shift, he had almost 100 students. Within 6 months, he was down to 20 students, and that was giving him new students. So there's a real problem there. And we spoke to him and talked about different things, and he was willing to learn. He was very open and willing to learn, but the core problem for him was his self-confidence. When he was so, and as the students were dropping out, he was getting more and more nervous, and he was getting more and more self-conscious about that whole thing. And he was so attached to trying to get this to work that he was so worried about it. And I said, you've got to kind of relax. Don't worry about it. I'm not worried about students dropping out. That's what I said to him. I'm not concerned about them dropping out. What I'm concerned about is whether or not you're following what we're asking you to do. You're following the system, the method, etc. And that was the problem, is he wasn't following the method because he was doing his own thing all the time, and because he was desperate to keep students, so he would do whatever. He was making deals with the students about doing makeups. He was not worrying about whether they practiced, and let them do whatever they want, and gave them riffs from songs and all this. So he's doing everything against what we were trying to get him to do. And it was all in a desperate plea to try and keep his students, which is common amongst many teachers. So what you've got to look at is whether or not the teacher is working on the things that you're asking them to do. Are they following the actual? Have you identified? We're not going to use any names here, but have you identified anything that they may be doing or may not be doing, Joachim?
I think he's quite focused on skills and like a clear technique, but everything else is sort of lacking.
Okay, so there's not enough connection between what the students want to do and the skills. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah.
All right. So what would you if let's say I'm that teacher, what would you tell me?
Say again, sorry.
So let's pretend I'm that teacher, okay?
Yes.
That I'm this teacher who's so focused on skills. It's all about getting the skills right, guys. Don't worry about the songs. Forget the music you love. Forget what you're interested in. Just let's get these scales and let's just learn to shred, and that's what it's all about. What would you tell me as the teacher? How do you approach them?
Okay, I would say, David, I find I've been watching your lessons for a while. I find that it's quite focused on skills, but that means that they don't have any inspiration on where they're going. There's no connection with how they progress with their goals, so that they don't have any motivation to practice.
Cool. There's a lot of movement there. Is there something going on behind you?
I'll turn it on.
Cool.
You're literally on a treadmill.
All right. Okay. Yeah. It's very hard to watch when it's moving.
Oh, okay.
I called it.
Good on you for staying healthy, but yeah, just take an hour off and get back to go for a jog. All right. So here's what I would do. I would start with questions, and I would do sort of start with questions and then move into role plays, because one of the things and I learned this the hard way, that often if we're dictating too much to teachers, they don't get it, they don't understand it, they don't want to get it, and they can even feel offended by it. And there's also the thing about when you're working with a teacher that we have to understand that they're learning the role, they're learning to do this effectively, and we want them to understand that that's okay, that it's fine, you're learning. You didn't come here, we didn't expect you to come here to understand how it all works and how G4 works and exactly what works. But what we want to do is we're into this together. So your student dropouts affect you, they affect me, they affect the whole business. And it affects the reputation. Even this teacher over here may be doing well, this particular teacher who's not doing so well with the dropouts is still affecting the other teacher. It goes right across because people talk. The reputation goes, oh, that's cool. Some people might say there's one good teacher, and other people go, oh, that had lessons there, it was no good, etc., etc. So you need to get this kind of uniform. It's better to be average across the board than to have one really good teacher and one really bad teacher, because the reputation is just confusing. People don't know where you are or what you're at. So what I would do with this particular teacher is say, look, we need to go back to square one. So I want to ask you a couple of questions. How do you feel about the G4 method first? That's one of the first questions I usually. How do you feel about it? Do you feel that it's working? Do you feel it's something that you're comfortable teaching? Do you feel that it could do with some improvement? What do you think? And that way you get a real gauge on how they're sitting with the method itself, whether they believe in it, whether they can sense. You get a sense of whether they're just trying to keep you happy for the money, or whether, because if they don't think you're open to listening to them, they won't tell you the truth. You've got to come across as being open about it. So then they will say to things like, oh, look, I follow the skills and I teach the skills, but they just want to learn songs, I don't really, and this is what I got sometimes, right? They don't really want to do all this boring skill stuff. They want to play songs, and so that's what I'd prefer to teach if I could. And that's when you be agreeable. Great, exactly, because that's what they do want to learn. They do want to learn their favorite songs. So let me put this into perspective so you understand what the G4 method is all about. The G4 is not about not teaching them the songs. What we want to do is give them the skills that they need to play their favorite songs. So what we do is, yes, we do teach the skills, but we need to relate it to the songs that they want to learn, to the music they're interested in, so it actually makes sense to them. So that, to me, if it is a likely scenario, I'm not saying it is necessarily the case. It could be other things, such as the teacher just has some self-esteem issues and does lack confidence in themselves, and that's where you need to build them up and let them know. Tell them your story. Tell them how, when you first started teaching, how it was for you, how it took you time to build your confidence in teaching, and that everybody is confident in different situations. This particular teacher you might go and see them play a gig, and they might be just awesome on stage, totally in their comfort zone. There might be other areas where they're totally in their comfort zone. And one of the things to get people to feel confident, which is what I spoke about before, focusing on their past successes or even current successes, is to start with a place that they feel comfortable in. And you can apply this to anybody. Whenever you're talking to somebody and you want them to feel comfortable in the situation, start with something that they feel confident about, because that puts them into a different mindset. So let's just say for you, Joachim, something that would put you in a comfort zone and me in in discomfort would be if we started talking Norwegian. All right, you're very fluent in the language. Okay, so you know, if I go to Fernando, Spanish, right? It starts. If I try and pretend I know your languages, then I'm going to look like a fool pretty quickly, and I'm going to feel out of my depth very quickly. So, but you will feel confident because it's something you know really well. And that's what you want to do, is you want to start with where they're feeling confident, whatever that topic or subject may be. Talk about things that they know about and feel comfortable about, and then work from there. And then, see, it is a trust issue. So they've got to trust you to the point where they're willing to listen to your advice and willing to accept your help. Because let me ask this question, do you feel that you can help this teacher?
I find it difficult because I've tried a lot of times.
If the teacher totally trusted you, do you feel that you could? If they said to you, "Can you help me?" Like you do, you come to me, right? You ask me for help, and I know that you're very open to suggestions and any help I give you. I don't feel any resistance from you at all. So take away all that resistance. Let's just imagine they're totally open to learning from you. Do you feel that you've got the advice? Do you know what to tell them to help them improve? Have you got the right advice?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, so it's a trust issue. That's what it comes down to. You've got to come back to building that trust so that you can get them to trust you. And that's the problem I had with that particular teacher I was telling you about, is I didn't have his trust. He didn't believe in me or the G4 method. He doubted it right from the word go. And that's why I wasn't able to help him, because I couldn't build the trust with him. And I'm not saying you can build trust with everybody, right? Some people you will never build trust with. Some people have had bad experiences. They just don't trust people. Sometimes it's very hard to, if you've had some clashes earlier, sometimes it's hard to recuperate from that and build trust. So sometimes it's impossible, and sometimes you just got to cut your losses, even though it can affect your business in the short term. I had to put off people in different situations at different times, and sometimes it was damaging to my business, where I lost a lot of business, a lot of students. I had one guy who I found was stealing from me, but yet he was my best teacher. This guy had about 80 students, I think. This was in my previous school before G4, and he was tall, handsome guy. The girls loved him. He had lots of female students, had lots of young teenage boys. They all thought he was the ants pants. He was a great guitar player. He was very much, Steve Vai type. And then I found out that he had been stealing from me, from my shop. So I had to let him go. And with him went a lot of students. Okay, so it was very difficult for me to do, but sometimes you've got to do it, and it was for the better. I let him go, and then suddenly I felt this whole weight off my shoulders. I felt all these problems disappear, and then I was able to find the right person, and things went well from that point. So I'm not saying give up on him. Definitely not saying give up on him. What I'm saying is that you need to build the trust, and you need to be honest with him. If you're feeling it's difficult to build the trust, I would just sit down with him and say, dude, we need to work this out. I need you to trust me, because we're on the same team here, and if I don't have your trust, then I can't help you, and we can't do this. We can't fix it, because it's our problem. It's a shared problem, and so we need to do it. So have it out with him. Spend a weekend with him or something. Go spend all day with him. Take a whole day and just really chat to him, just really nut it out. Say, we're going to spend the whole day, I'm going to pay for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, drinks, everything, and we're just going to hang out for a full day until we work this out. And it's you've got to do it, because it's costing you a lot of money. It's a big thorn in your side. Okay. And this is just so you guys know, really the hardest thing to do, and it's easy for me to talk here, Joachim, but the hardest thing to do is to manage other people. It's the hardest job in the world. Your students are there because they want to be there, they're paying to be there, whereas your employees, it's almost the opposite. You're paying them to be there. They're only there because you're paying them to be there a lot of the time. So it's getting them to do what you want to do. Once the money sort of goes into the back of their head, then they start to show their true personalities, and sometimes it's not what you were looking for. So I understand it's a challenge. Don't worry. I will. What I'll do is get you to report back to me the same as what I said with Fernando. Maybe in a month, come back to me and let me know how things are going, because you really want to fix this problem before it goes on too much longer. Okay, is that fine, Joachim? You good with that?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. So, any last comments? Jonathan, did you want to throw in anything there?
Nah, it's all good for today. Yeah.
Okay,
It's been
cool.
good listening in. So
Anyone else? Just stick your hand up if anyone else has a question or wants to make a comment. Yes, Alex, you go.
Just to reiterate what you wanted me to do. Do you want me just to do a profit and loss thing, just of the whole two schools and just all the expenses?
I want you to do more of a cash flow, not so much profit and loss, but cash flow. So how much money is coming in and how much money is going out, which is, in a sense, a profit and loss. But I just want to see it, what your current situation is for the month, so we can see how much cash is coming in and out of your business.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. I can do that.
Yeah. Look, I think the first goal for any business, often we think the first goal is to make profit, to make money. And of course, making a profit is very important. But I think really the first goal of any business is to buy back your freedom, to buy back your time. And that should be where you guys are all heading, is to how do I get back my time? Because as you can see with David Aldridge, who's doing the eMyth program, what it's all about, everything is about creating systems. One of the habits that I have is that when I get an email from one of you guys about a problem that you're having, then I immediately think, am I going to just answer this email, or am I going to answer this email forever? And so what I do is I answer that email, I'll put it into the Q&A, or I add it to some area. Like, for example, Michael Essery emailed me yesterday asking me about time management. So then I went to the time management page, had a look at it, and redid it. So I went through and fixed things that probably didn't need to be there, and that's why I did that video that you guys saw as well with the new to-do list thing that'll come as part of the G4 application, which, just so you guys know, won't be available probably until the end of the year. It's a lot more programming and getting everything right. And I really want to get it right, otherwise you guys are going to have problems with it. And it's very important because you're going to be putting all your students and all your data in there. If we don't get it right, then if it crashes or you lose all your data, it's going to be a big problem for you. So I really am going to take my time and get it right. But the idea of the video was just to show you how I organize my time. I already have that set up for myself. I do it on my own application, and it's all purposely designed for what you guys need. And the idea is that you'll be able to organize your time much better. So that's what we're doing as far as G4 is concerned, is developing more products and applications and things just to keep improving. And with your business, you want to look at everything that you do every day. You should be walking away with a list of things that you want to systemize, things that you want to get automatic and improve. If you're not doing that, then you're not working on your business, you're just simply working in it. If you're teaching, and that's mostly what you do, if you're teaching and marketing, and that's about all you spend your time doing, you're not really systemizing your business. You're not creating an asset for yourself, you're just creating a job. And there's a very big distinction between the two. Okay.
I had a question.
Yes. Yep.
So just back to that, sort of with that particular teacher. So when I mentioned some particular things, it's like, so this is like an issue, like and then can you do this? Can you try this? And it's like, I already am doing these things, and then sort of it gets me thinking, like, I'm maybe not entirely sure if I'm on the right track, or so it's a bit hard to tell.
Yeah, look, there's defensiveness there, and also I guess it can come down a little bit to your own experience. Is the teacher probably thinks you don't have any more experience than they do, or not a lot more experience, so there's that gap between what do you know kind of thing. So that's where you can leverage me, if you like. If you sort of say, well, look, maybe you're right. Don't ever sort of fight your side, and just sort of be agreeable and go, yeah, perhaps you're right. Why don't we just put it to David and see what he says? Okay,
yeah.
So that way.
Oh, sorry. Just wanted to add what is used quite a bit in classroom teaching, and what works really well is to record the lesson, like video record the lesson and sit down with the teacher and go, okay, let's have a look at the lesson and we'll do it together. You might even want to bring David in on a video link like we're doing today, and just sit down after the lesson or before a lesson the next day and sit down and go through the video of a couple of the lessons and just talk about different strategies. I know when I've done a bit of classroom teaching this year, and I've had a couple of principals do that with me, as well as last year when I was doing classroom teaching, and it helps heaps. So yeah, and I'm planning on doing that with David at the moment, just videoing my groups, and yeah, when my camera works, and yeah, do that. So maybe if you sit down with the teacher, do that, that'll work.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's really effective because sometimes they see it themselves from a different perspective. They're looking at themselves as the third person, so to speak. So yeah, that's a great idea, Jonathan. And same with any of you. If you video yourselves, I know some of you are going to be self-conscious, but you've got to do it. You've got to video yourself, and if I can watch it, then I can give you some feedback on it. It'll just give you a different perspective, if nothing else. Even watching yourself back can give you a different perspective on things. You can say, oh, wow, I find myself saying this too much. I listen to these videos back and I think, oh, I rambled on a bit there, or I said this word too much, or when you watch yourself back, you see a different perspective. Okay, I'll finish on this point, but when I first started doing these videos, I found myself saying a lot. So I'm more conscious of not saying so much in these videos because it was annoying me. So when you're watch your teaching, you'll start to pick on these things that you'll see that if they annoy you, they probably annoy your students as well. All right, thanks guys. That was
cool.
Good turnout and great. We got through some good topics there. So see you at the next week or next hangout, whichever you can make it.
Yep, sounds good.
Thanks,
man. Thanks, guys. Rock on.
Alex, Adam, see you guys.
Later.